Hey everyone, welcome back to Daily Downshift. Today we're going to be talking about some news that just broke about a week ago in regards to the Corvette C8. But before that, I quickly just want to mention and kind of tell you guys why there hasn't been a whole lot of information in regards to this vehicle on the channel in the past few weeks. And that's simply because of the holiday season. I believe the Michigan plant, the workers are on, holiday leave right now. There's not really much happening over at GM. And so we're kind of in this period of time right now where there's not a lot of new information, and we're kind of just waiting until things start to ramp back up from holidays. And then once we get into early February, maybe even late January, we're going to see some of these Corvette C8s start getting built and delivered to customers towards the ending of February, maybe early March. So exciting times. There are definitely a few dates that we have circled on our calendars for some really great content on the channel, so make sure you guys subscribe if you want to keep up to date to everything in regards to the Corvette C8. But today what we're going to be talking about is the break-in period of the drivetrain for the Corvette C8. Now this was a question that was posed by John, who is a forum co-founder and admin on midenginecorvetteforum.com. So big shout out to him for asking this question and for actually getting a response from Tadge, which is one of the senior guys over at GM, and he's been handling a lot of the questions and PR for GM in regards to the Corvette C8 since its launch. So his question right here was, during your recent interview with Jay Leno on his Garage Show, you mentioned that the new car will be in a reduced torque output mode during the car's initial break-in period. He then goes on to ask, can you elaborate on the purpose for that? Explain to folks what happens, and what happens if you want to actually break that 500-mile mark, and how will systems ease up? And Tadge actually answered with a lot of information here, 4 paragraphs to be exact. So buckle up, we're going to read his whole response because there are so many good nuggets of information here. So he says, thanks for the question, JVP. This is a good opportunity to clear up a few things. For as long as I remember, we have recommended a 500-mile break-in period for new cars. Not just Corvette, that is all cars. It has been emphasized in the owner's manual with further definition around brakes and driveline. Why is this important? Any machinery that has moving parts, whether they have point contact, a rotational interface, or slide against each other, will bed in over time. What this means is that no matter the manufacturing process, 2 interfacing parts will find their own equilibrium. You can think of it as mutually refining each other's surface texture until they reach a steady state. This steady state condition generally minimizes noise, vibration, and wear. All of which is something, by the way, guys, you want to maintain and make sure your car is up and running for the long run. Although manufacturing has improved to a point where break-in effects are minimized, they are still at play despite claims to the contrary. And the truth is there may be additional minor benefits for a longer break-in period. If it was my car, I would try to be patient for 1,000 miles. Starting with the 7th generation Corvette, we established a variable red line on the tach to give drivers a visual indication on when it would be advisable to take it easy on the car. We used it for the first 500 miles of driving, and when the engine was coming up to operating temperature after break-in was complete. Our reconfigurable display enabled us to do that. We didn't actually limit torque, horsepower, or RPM. It was just a visual indication. Despite the tach and owner's instructions, some customers use the full capability of the car immediately. We have too many videos of people doing burnouts off the dealer lot or showing up to a track, both road course and drag strip, with near zero miles. Taking any green or cold engine to max torque and speed can cause undesirable wear patterns that could affect the engine's operation over the long term. Running full torque through the trans under the same conditions can score gears, especially those in the differential after the engine torque has been multiplied. We have had examples of customers not observing the break-in guidelines and then returning the car to the dealer with complaints of gear noise or differential whine. For the 8th generation Corvette, we have taken it a step further. With more weight on the rear, the car has more traction, and we take advantage of that with more aggressive gearing. This translates into more torque multiplication and more loads in the driveline. We decided that for the first 500 miles to limit the maximum torque in first and second gears. The torque reduction is roughly 25 to 30% depending on which transaxle Z51 or the standard version, and which gear. That may sound like a big reduction, but in reality the car is still fast. In fact, you could easily spin the tires on some surfaces. Engine speed is not limited whatsoever, it will wind out till red line. So the torque reduction limits the worst of potential break-in wear, but is not a panacea. We will still be asking consumers to stay well off max torque and speed for the first 500 miles. We know it is hard to stay patient when such performance is available, but it will pay off in the long run. Wow, okay guys, that is a lot of information to digest in one sitting. So what I'm going to make sure is that you guys know what all of this means, especially if you're a buyer of the C8. We're going to go ahead and talk about the main talking points and just kind of explain everything thoroughly for you guys to make sure you get a good grasp of what this means. So for the first time ever, GM has decided that for the C8's launch, they're going to reduce the torque by roughly 25 to 30%, and this doesn't matter which vehicle option you get. Whether you have the standard version of the C8 or the Z51 package, it doesn't matter, torque will be reduced, but you know, depending on if you got the Z51 or not, it'll be 25 or 30%. And that might sound like a lot, but honestly guys, for 500 miles, that really isn't at the end of the world. If you're somebody that's really going to baby your car, then this is something that you're going to do well past 500 miles. And so this really shouldn't be an issue for many of you at all. The only people that I could see this affecting is somebody that just wants to buy the car, have fun with it right away for the first month, and then get rid of it for whatever reason. But for the most part, I don't think that that's going to be the majority of you guys. I know that personally, I am going to baby this car, and I'm definitely not going to be pushing this thing anything near red line until at least 1,000 miles. So this 500 mile reduction in torque really doesn't bother me whatsoever. And the reason why they're actually reducing the torque here for the C8 for the first 500 miles is simply because of the very aggressive gearing that they went with for the vehicle. They wanted this car to get off the line, you know, 0 to 60 in a very fast manner, and that's kind of the drawback that we have. There's aggressive gearing, so you can't really mess with the car and do crazy things with it right away off the dealer's lot. Now, like I mentioned, I would probably do this until 1,000 miles, but Tadge actually said the same thing and said that I would try to be patient for 1,000 miles if you want, you know, a great car for the long term in the long run. So that's something that I would just advise everybody to also do. Now, he doesn't mention this in his paragraphs here, but what I've also found out is that once that vehicle hits that 500 mile threshold, you don't actually have to take the car in for service or take it to some kind of shop to reduce that torque limitation. The car will automatically, electronically do this once you pass 500 miles, and you'll be free to use the car to its full potential. In a follow-up response here, John, the forum and co-founder and admin, the guy who originally posed the question to Tadge here, actually said that when he talked to Jeff Strauser, and hopefully I'm saying that name correctly, if I'm not, I apologize in advance, but that is the C8 brand quality manager. So this is somebody who is pretty important over at the company, and he said that the first time we need to visit the dealership for the C8 will be at 7,500 miles. That is insane. So for 10,000 kilometers, we will not have to bring this car into the dealership whatsoever. So the car is going to be good to go right off the dealer lot for at least a couple of months, you know, if you're an aggressive driver. But for some, that may even take, you know, a year or a year and a half to get to 7,500. Now, once you go in for the 7,500 mile service, you're going to have to do an engine oil change, the filters, and the DCT canister fluid filter change with a DCT fluid top off. You know, nothing out of the ordinary here, just the typical things that you'd want to do on a vehicle with this amount of performance once the vehicle reaches, you know, that important mile marker. So yeah, guys, that's really all the information that I wanted to kind of present to you guys today. I think it's awesome that they're actually doing this, because we know in the past that so many C7 and C6 owners had, you know, issues with their cars in the long run, because as soon as they got off the dealer lots, they were just ripping their cars and, you know, really just being savages with the vehicle. And that led to problems, you know, like Tadge mentioned in his response, people were having issues with all types of things on their vehicle, like gear noise and differential whine. So this will hopefully eliminate most of those complaints, and people really won't have any issues whatsoever in the long run with this vehicle. Let's hope that everything else is up to snuff, because if it is, then this is going to be an incredible launch, and more importantly, an incredible vehicle. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Comment down below what you think of this mandatory break-in period. Do you like the idea? Do you dislike it? Let us know in the comments. Of course, if you enjoyed this video or found it informative, a like would very much help us out. Subscribe for more daily Corvette and other automotive content, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.